Matt, thanks for joining us, mate.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure, mate. So I think a really good place to start for us today is to talk about your background, right? So your dad started Rackets and Strings, and it's built itself to be the biggest and best store in Adelaide in terms of all racket sport equipment and specialist equipment for racket sports. So I'm curious to know how that started and what that was like for you growing up in, I guess, a racket environment or racket shop environment. And is that something that you saw yourself moving into, or was it just a natural progression?
Yes. So Dad started. He was a badminton player when he was younger and quite high performance. So won a few big events, and we hanged around. Was the Lockleys badminton hall where he had his little shop.
Yeah.
So growing up, and we'll just
next to Lockleys Oval.
Yeah, so next to Lockleys Oval, which is where my tennis club is now.
Yeah, nice,
so there's nice complex and a few sports involved around that. So the badminton hall's still going.
Yeah, because that is the main badminton place.
Yeah, well, that's Adelaide Badminton Hub.
Yeah.
Yep. So most things would be run out of that, which I think is still a seven court complex. So. So he was in a little shop there, and he obviously played as well, and he specialised mainly in the badminton side of things.
Yeah.
And the other side business that he had was a repair business. So if you broke a graphite racket, then that was able to be repaired. Yep. So he had that in the little shop out of the back as well.
Because that used to be big. Repairing rackets, but I wouldn't say people do that really anymore. Would you say, or
it's definitely changed because resources now you can get any rackets from a supplier quite quickly, and the costs probably aren't as high as what they would have been back in the day. So it was a service that was added to the business and was used quite a lot. So it's quite unique. Developed that, and that's what he was doing for a long time.
Sure.
So growing up around racket sports, I did badminton back in the day and tennis, and then he happened to move to the squash courts on Hendy Beach Road. So he bought that building. I think I would have been about year 7, year 8, so I would have been age about 10. So naturally we started playing a bit of squash as well. So I had three different racket sports growing up. So quite a unique.
Absolutely. Did you always, like when you bought that, was it always the intention to turn it into a shop with the squash courts above, or what was, I guess, the progression of how it moved forward once you bought the building? Yeah,
so the purchase of the building was you needed a larger shop because he outgrown the little one that wasn't too big at the badminton hall off memory. So at one stage he was running both places for about a year, and then everything was operated out of the squash courts. So we were running the squash courts, and then you had the shop, and then the repair business was still going as well. Yeah.
What was the scene like back then? Like, was there many people actually selling racket? Were there already racket shops established? What was, I guess, the layout in Adelaide at that point?
Off memory, there would have been maybe 4 or 5 specialists that were around and targeted tennis people. But your main person that sold rackets was a sports shop, so a big Rowan Jarman back in the day would have had a massive wall with different rackets, and things have definitely changed over the last
100%
10 years for sure.
The knowledge and the technology, and
it's hard for
and
sports
online
stores.
as well.
Correct. So we're talking about a specialty business. So someone's coming into the shop, you want them walking out with the right equipment.
Yeah, 100%, which you're going to get to. So as that progressed, right, at what point did you see yourself actually having a pathway in that as a career for you? So you said year 7 when he got the building. How was the initial years after that? And then I guess, were you already working in there at a young age?
Yep. So obviously played a lot of tennis growing up. That was probably the main sport. Wasn't like fanatical about it, but once school had finished, I didn't really have much of a direction, so I started to help him out casually, and progressed from there, and enjoyed doing it, enjoyed the business side of things as well. So growing and establishing relationships with people, and,
Yep.
and he was quite respected with a lot of people and was well known. So learning all those things from him, and this is where we're at now.
Yeah, absolutely, huge growth. So at what point did it become your business, right? So your dad obviously gets to an age and then passes on to you. How old were you and how long into, I guess, the business was that point?
Yeah, so I've probably been working there for, I'm 40 now, so at least 20 years.
Yep.
So 20 years experience. He decided to retire, and then that would probably be about 8 years ago. So
Yep.
I've had it for 8 years and grown since then. But
Yeah, it can be an interesting one because obviously your dad would have a direction for the business and then you would have your own ideas. How have you, I guess, tried to move the business in, I guess, your own vision or your own direction since, just being at the helm of it?
yeah, of course. So obviously things have changed a lot, especially with the internet side of things.
Yep.
The amount of stock that's coming in, as in different type of accessories and bags, and what the players are using at the time. So things have definitely expanded over the years, and then you just got to try to get that to your clientele, basically.
Yeah. So in terms of just like all new equipment and just new trends and new things, and you just basically, your job is to stay on top of that and get that out. So how that works is, are the reps talking to you about that and giving you the knowledge, or is that research that you're doing yourself to kind of stay on top to make sure that you're getting that out to the clients?
Yeah, so we'll be giving a heads up if a new launch is coming, and then there's protocol of how to release when they release the product, with the dates and how to do it. So if there's new technology, then we need to get that in our heads and get that to clients when they're walking in, when they're asking questions. You need to have knowledge of all the products that you have in stock. So
what's been the biggest shift in the last 8 years, like from when you started to now? What have you seen is changed dramatically?
I think probably the biggest change is what players are actually using now. So your pros, you're probably still using similar type of rackets, but your top elite, local players are definitely dropped the weight of a racket, for example, for swinging around a lot quicker. 10 years ago, you're probably selling 320, 325 grams quite regularly.
Okay, now, at all ages, really?
Not all ages, I would say more just developed players that can handle that weight.
Sure.
But it's definitely noticeable we're struggling to sell that type of weight now. That 300, 305 gram is your crowd-pleasing weight for most players. Okay.
Is that purely for swing speed? Like what problems are you seeing? Is it just they can't handle that weight?
Yeah, I think it's just being able to wheel it around a lot quicker for a longer period of time.
With the speed of the game increasing as well?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, because it's just getting ridiculous. People hitting so much harder.
Yes.
Yeah, becoming more athletic as well.
Getting your timing correct. So back in the day, it might have been a serve volley game, and you got your touch, and you got a weighted racket that can hit through the ball. So baseline playing with a heavy racket, you probably get a bit tired after.
Yeah, 100%. And people training more as well, some more volume. Correct. Yeah. Come with me to get some rackets at Rackets and Strings, which is Adelaide's leading racket specialist here in Adelaide. So this is their Summerton Park store. So we've got Matt here doing restringing as you walk in. He's the owner. There's obviously shoes. You can get all ranges of rackets here, bags. There's no shortage of equipment, and you can even try the rackets downstairs at both stores as well. So you can actually grab the rackets, have a hit. So I was trying out the Yonex and also the Head Radical, and you can even take away demos to give them more of a crack on court. And I also took away a bag that I was really liking too. How has the tennis retail landscape changed over the years since, I guess, when you started to now?
Yeah, so, you'd have a range of rackets, which would be your core range, and then the modern day racket would be upgraded with a cosmetic or a colour update or a, collab with something. So there's definitely a lot more, choice with different rackets that you can get different colours or, So that's probably the main thing.
Okay. So when they're updating rackets, they're not really changing too much, or like how often are the rackets actually, I guess, changing?
Yeah, so most brands would probably do 2 years or 3,
Yep.
just depending on the brand and how many solos they would have in each range. So
Yep.
they would update that particular range with a different technology.
Yeah.
Might tweak the beam a little bit, so it will change from the previous model.
But not, is it almost like, I guess when iPhone releases like new technology, it's just a little trickle, like there's not really too much change.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, you want people to be interested, but you want them to try out the updated model for sure.
Yep.
It doesn't always work. Some people like to stick with the older models because a certain balance point or feel that you're getting out of the older models.
Sure.
Usually when with my frames that I use, I update every 4 years.
Yeah.
So I always miss a solo.
Yeah. That sounds about right. Yep. With your time and the rackets that have come through, what has been, I guess, the biggest change in technology that you've seen between like rackets? Has there been a shift that you're going like, well, there's actually a big shift from before?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's too much technology getting introduced into rackets.
Yep.
It's more just tweaking certain parts of rackets or making certain parts stiffer or changing the beams is quite a big one.
Yep.
The technology upgrade, I don't think's updated too much. Over the last 5-6 years.
Okay. Were there any distinct models? Like I remember, for example, there was a really popular one, like the liquid metal.
Yep.
Like, is there any specific things or ranges in the past where you go like, oh wow, that was a really interesting technology, or like even kinetic with the sand?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Well,
like,
that was a physical thing, so just absorbed a lot of shock in the racket, but they still do that in the kinetics and the pro-kinetics.
Do you sell any of those?
I do actually. Yeah, I
interesting.
got a range at the Somerton store. So they still do it. They still introduce old technologies into the modern day rackets.
Yeah. When someone walks into the store, is there really, do you have a process and how you help them to make sure that they're walking out happy and I guess with the right equipment, because the wrong equipment can be obviously a huge problem in racket sports?
Yeah, of course. So you want the person to be happy when they're walking out the store. So there's a massive process that we would like to do with each customer, and we try to take our time with each individual customer because every single person is a different player.
Yep.
So usually we would know in a smaller type of range of what they would probably like.
Yep.
We'll give them a choice. They can actually try on site just to have a little hit.
Yeah.
Just even a little hit against the wall just helps them understand what each racket will do regarding the weight, swinging that around. And then, obviously what they want to spend on a racket, because you can get quite a big range of value of rackets between $50 up to $500 for example. So
100%.
you really have to dive into the customer themselves to see what they are looking for.
Yep.
And then we help narrow that process down with choice.
For sure. You have the racket walls that you can actually hit with on both in your Somerton Park store and also Myland store. Yes. Is that something that you always visioned, that you thought was just like, we need to make sure we have this, especially when you went to Somerton Park where there's no guarantees that you're going to have that again?
Yep.
Obviously having the squash courts is very helpful and handy. Is that something that you just go like non-negotiable, we need to have this as part of the customer service process?
100%. People just come down happy. I mean, it's a squash court wall, so it's not ideal. You're not having a massive hour hit on a tennis court, but for a lot of the social players, for example, would go up there happy to have a hit with three to five rackets, and they will make a decision from that choice basically that we've given them. And if they are not happy, then we reassess and we can choose more to choose. Yeah.
Do you see the process or their decision change when they actually have that hitting wall, when they go like, maybe I like this racket, but then they're trying a few and using the wall, and it almost, what they originally started with is so different to when they end up with?
100%. So they always, every brand sells well for us. There's no real standouts. I mean, obviously some have big ranges, so you do more with them, but they would probably walk out most of the time with a racket that they wouldn't come in looking for. Like a brand like Vocal, for example, not many people would ask for that brand, but the people that use it would. So they understand that brand of how it feels and what it does. So, you just got to get it in people's hands, have an open mind. I mean, we have a lot of issues with colour of a racket or a favourite player or, the marketing side of things starts to come into play as well. And, so we try to work out what's best for that individual that comes into the store.
Yeah, because the bias would be so interesting where people come into an idea of, I don't know, their favourite player, like Alcaraz is doing this, I just want to be like Alcaraz.
Correct.
But that racket could be absolutely horrible for that person. Yep. So it's just trying to, I guess, without telling them no, gently sway them in a direction or get them to try something.
You got to just work that out for a start. I mean, you can't say no to them, but if they want to use an Alcaraz racket and it's not the appropriate one, then it's still going to hit the tennis ball. But if you want to get the most out of your tennis, you kind of have to come in with an open mind. But with juniors, the colour is probably the biggest factor in a racket, unfortunately.
For sure. I think what would be really important to talk about would just be like the differences in rackets, let's say for like just a club level player, maybe like a really good like up and coming junior that's trying to push their tennis to become a very good developed player, I guess, and then the difference between that developing tournament player to even like a professional player, some of the differences that you think is important to note.
So we'll start with the juniors. I've liked a lot of brands have now brought in what we call a fused 23-inch racket. So these are like little kids that can actually quite talented. They've never really had a choice of a decent racket for their size. So to have a fused racket or even a graphite racket, I think Wilson used to do a 24-inch full graphite racket, which we did quite well with. Just to get, they'll enjoy a racket like that instead of a two-piece alloy that would hit the ball but not performance-wise. So
because you could hit the ball very well with a racket like that, like at a young age.
Yeah, correct. So the racket starts to do what they've got in their head that they're doing. With their swing and what the coach is trying to get across. So having the right equipment from that age for a certain player, obviously a keen young player, I think is ideal. And that
otherwise they're jumping up size and weight way too quickly, right?
Yeah, correct. So it's another thing that we got to hold them back kind of. Obviously there's circumstances where they can move up. It really comes down to the choice from the coach, I think, and that's a good discussion for them. But there is progression as you get older and the height of a player and the strength of a player as well. So we've got a 23, we've got now 24 fused rackets, and then we move to 25. So we got a lot more choice for the 25, 26s as they're getting stronger, better. Probably more hand-eye, more talented with that side of things. The better rackets start doing what the player needs them to do, performance-based. So then we can move into like a rec player. You could go from a fuse to a nice graphite frame. That type of price would probably range between $100 and $200. And then we can go your performance-based rackets. So the ones that are balanced well, the graphites are the premium graphites, obviously well engineered. That's what you're paying for with the high performance stuff. They start doing what the player needs the rackets, the equipment to do. You rely on that.
And then I guess what would like a pro setup look like compared to, let's say, just like a normal, like a up and coming junior, or a good tournament player at let's say a local level that's still 16. They're striking great ball, but it's obviously levels under a professional, right?
Next level. So they're tweaking with just single grams of tweaks of where the balance points are and adjustments that they need, and their weight of the racket's usually quite high, so they're quite strong players. They are very different type of frames, and there is certain frames that they use that you cannot buy in store.
I think that's important to note, because I think when people are buying, I don't think they realise that they're actually using nothing like what the pros are using. Correct. It's just they're buying the marketing product of it's the same paint job, but it's pretty much a completely different product, right?
Yes, it is. So there's different beams and different stiffnesses, and then some players get theirs made specifically for them. So some players might be using a racket that was 8 years ago, and they just painted every couple of years to match the marketing for what's on the shelf.
Yeah. I guess what would be another important point would be, I guess, knowing the difference between power, control, weight, head size, string pattern, when wanting to purchase a racket. Like, there's so many elements that I just mentioned there. Yep. I think maybe a good example would be like a type of player. What should they be looking for? Let's say like more of a baseline player, or someone that's more of an aggressive baseliner. Is there kind of things that you would recommend that would actually be really helpful information for
100%.
people?
So every like we said before, any individual that comes into the shop, there's going to be a different racket for them.
Yeah.
So if you were a baseliner, you'd be doing a lot of spin. The spin frames definitely come in. The dowels helped that back in the day when, thicker, chunkier frames hold the ball on there longer. Great for baseline play. Then you've got control-orientated frames, so the thinner beams get more feel, and then there's everything in between. And then oversized rackets, well, that would be for someone that needs help with power, usually. Naturally, they'll be a little bit lighter. And then, and then obviously strings. That's a huge one. It is a huge one.
Like, what? How much impact does the racket have, and how much is the string? If we're kind of giving like an approximate percentage, how important is the racket versus string?
I think they're both as important as one another. You got to have the right combinations as well. I think certain strings will match certain rackets, and then they won't work very well in other rackets. So, we've had experimentation with players that come in. I see 4 or 5 rackets a week for certain players. Getting feedback from them is awesome. It's like a learning curve for me, and they'll use different rackets over their journey, and then they will have different strings of their journey because a certain string won't suit the next racket that they've chosen. So it's all going back to the drawing board for them as an individual. So you really have to find what suits the individual player, as in you, not your friend or someone else or Nadal or someone. It's all on you.
Do you make recommendations where you go, hey, I reckon you would suit this. We just had this string come in. I reckon maybe let's try this. Do you make those personal recommendations, or do you let them come to you a little bit more?
Yeah, it's you gotta pick the customer and then get into their head and find what they want to achieve out of the strings, for example, or the racket. Depends on what you're selling, but if they want to create more spin, then we want to get more textured strings, or a round string might suit them more because of the snapback. So we just gotta, it's an experimentation thing.
What's that? What's the snapback?
So snapback, if it's a round string and they're doing a lot of spin, and then the strings will naturally move, and then they're snapping back into the original place, so that will create spin as well. So there's a couple of ways to create spin, I think. And then shape strengths. I mean, we've got square shapes, we've got 5-sided shapes, 6-sided shapes, 8-sided shapes, twisted strings, different compounds, different thicknesses, so we can dive into it quite a lot. So and that all comes down to that one person that comes in. We've got so much choice to offer the customers, and we go through every single string. It's just not a string that doesn't just sits there in the shop. So you got to get your head around it. It's a specialty thing, so it's not just giving a few choices. That gauges is a good one. I think
in thickness
of a string. So I use a 1.05, so it's like,
that's insanely thin, right?
Paper thin. I'm a very flat hitter. I don't play heaps. But that feel is amazing. So the thinner the string, the better feel you get. So, for an example, if the customer's not breaking strings and they still want a performance string, I'll always recommend a thinner string to get the best feel out of the strings. And then with someone that's a chronic string breaker, then that's not going to work because that will probably last 5 minutes.
So I guess performance player that's playing all the time, if they're using that's going to break within almost 10 minutes, right?
I'd say less than.
If you're ripping the ball, right?
Correct.
So I guess you got to find the sweet spot. Because if you're a pro, right, you're getting 6 free strings, you can afford to just maybe go a little bit thinner and know that they're going to break, and you can just get them done all the time. But obviously, that's huge financial cost if you're just like even a performance player. So would you say the sweet spot is the 1.25?
So 1.25 for a poly is the crowd pleasing thickness, I'd think, for most people. Like I said, if someone's taking 2 years to break that and they're playing once a week, I'd definitely be recommending something a little bit thinner, just to get that little bit more playability out of that string. If it's not lasting, let's say a parent's complaining because it's only lasting a couple of weeks, most strings can go to 1.3 or in some cases 1.35, just to get a bit more.
Do they go up in to 0.5 only?
No, it can vary. There's a lot of different gauges, different thicknesses.
Yeah, full on. And how many strings do you reckon you actually have, like in your shop? Like different types. Would it be like up over 100?
We'd be getting close there, and then you can include hybrids. So we're talking about 2 different strings in the one racket. So there's a lot of different combinations that we can choose. We always get, if there's a new launch, we always get to trial things before we stock it. And if it works and it suits certain players, then it's going to be on the shelf, right? Because people are going to be asking for it.
Of course. What do you sell the most of?
So it's a funny question because there's 3. I think there's a couple of levels. You got your high performance strings. So I think there's a couple that are a benchmark. Luxaline Ali Power. They also do a 4G as well, which we use heaps of as a high performance strings. They get probably asked for the most. And then there's strings that we just tick over, and that's naturally Babolat RPM Blast or a Vocal Cyclone. They're the spin orientated strings that just suit so many players, and they just work.
100%. And then at like a recreational level, would that be just like some sort of standard poly? Or
so rec players, we used to traditionally use synthetic guts, and back in the day there was some really good quality Japanese made synthetic guts, and I think the cost of that is definitely increased, so that you don't see that very often. So maybe an all-rounder string we use a synthetic gut, multi-filaments as well, but the polys are that good these days that majority of people are using poly, where 20 years ago we wouldn't be recommending poly whatsoever.
Why is that?
There was a lot more choice, I think, regarding good synthetic guts, and people weren't probably breaking strings with the style of tennis player. It was a lot flatter.
That makes sense.
So there's a lot of different factors that were back in the day, more dense string patterns. So we used to sell heaps of 18, 20 string patterns. So now majority of the time it's 16, 19. Like players are wanting that more power and the more spin. So the string patterns definitely opened up a fair bit. Then you get more string wear. So back in the day, you probably wouldn't have got more string wear.
Very interesting. What are the most common problems that you see, or most common, I guess, questions or concerns that people come in that you say, if you could kind of like, I guess, package them into a couple that you just think happen or almost repeat?
I mean, breakage is obviously a big one.
In terms of breaking strings too quick?
So that's a discussion that we can fine tune and change to different strings. Some last longer than others, but that's why we have we put a label on our every racket that we do. It describes the tension, the string itself, thickness, and the date. So we're keeping track. So if someone is complaining about something, then there's always an answer for it.